Cutting costs buys you time, but income buys you freedom. And when you do both together, watch what happens to your runway. This is the second part of stretching your runway while you are looking for your next thing. The first part, we talked about cutting costs. Let's dive straight into what I've learned across 4 layoffs. We all know this job market is ridiculous right now, especially in tech and entry levels. Many people are taking much longer to land their next job. So while you're still looking, there are more ways to bring money in today than ever before, including one I almost talked myself out of, which ended up covering most of my mortgage every month. Also, I'm going to tell you something that I've never really said to anyone before. Back in 2008, I made a $100,000 mistake because I freaked out. And yeah, I really wish I could undo it. Are you ready to hear about one of my biggest regrets? Let's get into it. After my second layoff, I had a mortgage to pay on my own. I had a spare room in my house. And I remember thinking, could I actually rent this out? The idea felt uncomfortable at first. Stranger in my home, sharing my only bathroom, losing my privacy and my convenience, not to mention the cleaning after every booking. I really didn't want to do it, but the math was too good to ignore. So I listed it on Airbnb and I was shocked how fast I got my first booking. Look, I am in a great city, so it really depends on your location. 2 women came from Korea. They stayed for the entire first month. We actually became really good friends and I visited them in Seoul years later. I ended up meeting people from all over the world, different countries, different stories, all coming through my one spare bedroom. It was kind of fun, actually. And even more fun is to see how every single month it nearly covers my entire mortgage. Yes, almost the whole thing from one room. And here's what I didn't expect. Once I started working full-time, I got too busy to turn over the room. But because I'm so used to sharing my bathroom and my home, I rented this room out to someone I know without any hesitation. The rent helps to pay for almost half the monthly mortgage, and it is so nice to have another human being in the house. Bottom line is, your house and apartment doesn't have to be just a liability right now. It can be an asset. And if you're open to something even bolder, and here's one more option that most people won't even let themselves consider. Moving in with family for a bit. I know, that voice in your head. Just say, absolutely not. But hear me out. Because the math on this one is a little hard to argue. In the US, about 28% to 45% of your income goes into rent or your mortgage, which means that's your biggest expense. If you can reduce that, even for just 3 or 4 months, you don't just save money, you create real runway and lower a ton of stress. And while you're with your family, your place doesn't have to sit empty. Check to see if you can sublet it, rent it out, or put it on Airbnb. That way, your biggest monthly liability now becomes an income source. Now, why am I telling you all of this about rent and housing? Because rent and mortgage is my biggest expense. I got so freaked out about not being able to pay my mortgage after my first layoff. I made one of the biggest financial mistakes of my life. I took $20,000 out of my 401k. And here's the painful part. I never even thought about renting out a room. That option was sitting right there. Literally right there in my house. And I couldn't see it because I was too freaked out to see it clearly. At the time, it felt like that's the only option. The bills were coming. I was super terrified. My house was 30 to 40% underwater. The recession was in full swing. So I told myself, I'll just take a little, just for cushioning, just in case. I really didn't want it to go into foreclosure like many people. Then I found a job pretty quickly. So I didn't even need it. That money came out of fear. Not because it was necessary. It was just fear. Here's what you need to know. If you're thinking about this, if you have a traditional 401k or IRA and you withdraw early, you're paying income tax on the full amount as ordinary income, plus a 10% penalty on top. Depending on your tax bracket, you could lose 30 to 40 cents every single dollar before you spend a penny on it. And here's the number that still haunts me. That $20,000 I took out in 2008, if I had left it alone in 401k, it would be easily worth over $100,000 today. $100,000 from 20! Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. Please talk to one before making any decisions about taking money out from your retirement accounts. But please exhaust every other option first. The phone calls, the Airbnb room, the part-time job, moving in with family if you have to. Your retirement savings are the very last resort. I wish I've known better and not made that mistake. And beyond housing, there are many ways to bring money in right now while you're still in the search. Some of these are simple, low-pressure ways to get cash flowing quickly without taking on a full second job. Sell what you don't need, like on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, or Poshmark. It's immediate cash. You can do it in your own time, and honestly, it feels really good to clear things out when you're in a transition. If you have a car that you don't use much, you can rent it out on Turo. If it fits your situation, it's one of the closest things to passive income. Teach what you already know. Platforms like Wizen, Superproof, or even local Facebook groups. If you've got experience, like design, coding, marketing, project management, there are people willing to pay to learn from you. Here are some I've used or seen work pretty well. Dog walking on Rover, you set your own hours, you get outside, you're around people and animals. Honestly, underrated for your mental health too. TaskRabbit, Handyman Task, furniture assembly, moving help. If you're handy, this pays well and stays flexible. Working at a cafe or restaurant, this was one of my favorites. Not just for the income, but for the structure. Somewhere to be, something to do, to have people around you. The cafe wasn't just about money. It was about being around noise and movement and life, because the loneliness of this process will slow you down more than anything else. And don't overlook your own field. If you have professional experience, you can do consulting, freelancing, and contract work that can get you paid work that also keeps your skill sharp and your resume active. That's a double win. So that's your full financial runway plan. Cut costs, make calls, create income, protect your retirement. You have more options than you think. Here's the thing about all of this. Every decision we've talked about across these two videos of financial runway is a short-term move. It's a bridge to give yourself the space to do something more important. Figure out what you really want next. Not just the next available job, but the right next step. The kind of work that actually aligns with your values now. That's what next video is about. I promise you that conversation can change everything. I want to ask you something. Which part of this hit closest to home for you? Was it the Airbnb idea, or are you sitting there thinking about that retirement savings? Drop it in the comments. Tell me where you are right now. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself.